Right, discriminant. This is a very important skill in Core 1, and they often ask a question to do with discriminant in an exam. Now, it says, given that ax squared plus bx plus c, we call b squared minus 4ac the discriminant. Now, in Core 1, we've also already looked at the quadratic formula, which is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you should notice that this equation here is the same as this part here inside the square root. Now the discriminant is used to find out how many roots a curve will have, and root is how many times it crosses the x-axis. So we look at these three diagrams here, you'll see that on this top one there's 2 roots because it crosses the x-axis twice. On this one there's only 1 because it just touches the x-axis, and we say there's 1 repeated root there. And on this last one you'll notice that there's no roots because it doesn't cross the x-axis. Now we can find out how many roots there is to a curve by just looking at this part here, because remember the square root of 36, for example, is both 6 or minus 6. So there's 2 answers. So if we're looking at here and this bit here is positive, so say we got 36 here, when we square root it, we'll be either adding on 36 or subtracting 36. So there'll be 2 different solutions for x. Now if this bit is 0, then the square root of 0 is 0, and you can't have a negative 0. So there'll only be 1 solution for x. And if this bit is negative, so say we had negative 36, well you can't square root a negative number. So there'll be no real solutions. And if you do in further maths, you will probably come across the fact that there is a square root to a negative number. But for the sake of most of us will be doing an A-level course, there's no solution to a square root of a negative number. So if you do get a negative square root in your exam, you've probably made a mistake in your calculations, so you need to go through and check your answer. So discriminant, as I said, is to do with, where's my rubber? Where's my rubber? So the discriminant is to do with this part here, so the b squared minus 4ac. So if this b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, we say there is 2 real roots, 2 distinct real roots, and they're not and are unequal, so they're not the same. If b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, we say there is 1 repeated root, and if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, we say the roots are not real, they do not exist. And we could be asked to do that in an exam. So let's have a look now at this question here from an exam, from a textbook. So I've just cleared up that little bit of work in there. So it says calculate the discriminant of fx equals 2x squared plus 11x plus 5, and hence state how many solutions there are to the equation fx equals 0. So when fx is equal to 0, this is referring to where the y coordinate is 0. And you should know that the y coordinate is 0 along the x-axis. So what I like to do first is I like to point out what a is, b is and c is, so we don't make a mistake. So a is the coefficient of x squared, so the number in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x, which is 11, and c is the number on its own, which is 5. Now, to find out how many solutions there are to this equation, we're going to use b squared minus 4ac. So we're going to find the discriminant. So b is 11, so 11 squared minus 4 times 2 times 5. Now, 11 squared is 121, and 4 times 2 is 8, times 5 is 40. So if you do that, you're left with 81. Now 81 is definitely bigger than 0, so that means there's 2 real solutions. So 2 solutions to this problem, 2 solutions. Right, let's have a look at a more typical exam style question. This is a more typical exam style question. It says, find an inequality involving p such that the equation px squared plus 2x plus 1 has no real solutions. Now, this is a really key point here in the question. No real solutions. Now, if there's no real solutions, that means b squared minus 4ac has got to be less than 0 because it doesn't cross the x-axis. So, let's have a look at the equation. So it says px squared plus 2x plus 1. So a is equal to p, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to 1. So let's substitute our values into the equation b squared minus 4ac. So b is 2 squared minus 4 times p, times 1. And that's less than 0. So 2 squared is 4, and 4 times 1 is 4, so that's 4p. And that's got to be less than 0. Now, it does say in the question, leave your answer as an inequality. So, let's rearrange this so we get p on its own. So, first step is to add 4p to both sides. So, 4 is less than 4p. And if you divide through by 4, you should find that p has got to be greater than 1. So, for this to have no real solutions, the value of p has got to be greater than 1.